Alrighty, let us do this. G'day guys, welcome once again to the Tripod. This week we'll be recapping round 13. Not a winning week for us this week, so it's broken our 4-week win streak. We only went 14 and 15, so a slight losing round, but pretty much even-ish, I guess. So you didn't lose too much money, but disappointing. Once again, kind of had a bad ending to the round with the Bulldogs game that we just saw then. First things first, obviously, make sure you're in our group, Tripod Punters Tips Forum, on Facebook, and make sure you've downloaded the Tripod app. That's Trypod. You can get that one for free on the App Store and in Google Play. Jacob, how are you, mate?
To be honest, I'm disappointed from the round, especially today, which was talked about, and yesterday has brought us just slightly back down to earth. I guess the good news, if you're going to have a losing round, going 14 and 15, and that means we're certain to bounce back next week. Sure, everyone's going to be looking forward to that already. And you're saying that because this is my last pod. I'm actually off overseas on Wednesday, so I guess you're seeing it as the pressure's on you. But I've watched all the footy this weekend, as you have. I'll still be able to help contribute for us picking some winning plays next week. But the other reason to be in our group, it's a crazy time of year for the amount of sport. Obviously, Cricket World Cup, the tennis, the French Open just completed. We had an Aussie winner. We had some good tips on the tennis. What else? NBA tomorrow, a monstrous massive NBA game. So all sports and all tips, and plenty of people on fire in the group. But do you want to talk about the debacle that was the Monday game in the NRL?
Not really. I'd prefer just to skip over it, but I'll put the graphic on the board. The Dragons beat the Bulldogs 36-12. We were on the doggies in that one, unfortunately, and we just thought, look, they're going to show up this week. We really thought they would. And you know the games that the Bulldogs win? It's the games where they show up and they just out enthuse their opponents, but they were flat from the get-go. The Dragons really wanted this one more, and it's tough because, we have backed against the Dragons numerous times on their 5-game losing streak, and we kind of thought that they may have just fallen apart and the season had kind of fallen apart as well. But Ben Hunt had a cracker. Corey Norman was very good in his first game back in a while, and the Dragons just wanted it more than the Dogs, and it just seemed like, I don't know, I guess you can say whatever you want after the game, but it looked like, if you watch that 80 minutes by itself and didn't know anything else about the season, it dead set looked like the Bulldogs had given up on their season. And the take nothing away from the Dragons. Certainly, they played better and they did deserve the win. But the Bulldogs just threw absolutely nothing at them.
Yeah, and it's painful to watch. The Doggies, we've always had them at the bottom of our power ratings, but it's like they have won 3 games this year. The Dragons have been far from impressive on a 5-game losing streak. We thought it could at least be close. Dogs scored the first try and then lost Cogger, so all the pressure's on Kieran Foran. And I used to be such a big Kieran Foran fan back in his prime. Now it's
just going
sad
back
to watch him, loaf around the field. And I know he got a try. And first half, there were more fifth tackle kicks for the Dogs that ended up in breakaways for the Dragons than there were. I don't think they got a result off any of them. But let's talk about the Dragons. They've definitely drawn a line in the sand. 5 losses in a row, but they got the bye. They got their origin players and a couple other guys like Norman back today. And their season, they needed to get it back on track. And as you say, they definitely were hungrier. They were fired up. We could tell quite early on, we regretted. Not often we're going to regret a lot of our best bets. It doesn't mean they always win, but we'll say, we were, it was still the right team to be on. In that one, we found ourselves regretting a couple of our best bets.
Oh, 100%. And let's rewind to Friday night. We had the Knights beating the Rabbits 20-12. We liked the Knights in this one. It was the only game of the round where we actually released plays a few days before we normally do. And that was just because we saw the line. It was 8.5. It drifted down to 6.5. And obviously...
No, we got 6.5, I think.
Yeah. It was 8.5. We got it. It started coming down to 6.5, so we grabbed it because we could see it was just going to keep coming in. And once again, we figured, there was, I guess, more chance of Rabbits players being out from Origin than Knights players. And it kind of didn't really end up that way. I understand that Cody Walker got rested after Origin, but then Clemmer got ruled out. Then Ponga had some rest, and then Sam Burgess was announced that he was playing his last game. And then at that point, we didn't really love the Knights too much, and that's why we didn't put any additional plays on the Knights. If anything, if the line came any further down to 2 points, we probably would have taken the Rabbits. So thank God it did. But another very, very good win for the Knights. That's 6 on the trot for them now, and they are looking like serious top 8 contenders. And Mitchell Pearce is playing some of the best footy that I've ever seen him play. And, now the issue is, will he get a call up for Origin? And that'll really throw a spanner in the works for the Knights. There's 6 on the trot, and if they're missing Ponga and Pearce, for game 2 and 3 of Origin, that will certainly hurt their chances of keeping that roll on.
I'm going to avoid trying to talk about Origin selections because, there's so many blokes in the mix. I mean, even Maloney put himself in the mix. Cody Walker, has he done enough to get dropped? And you're right, obviously Pearce is playing their best number 7 of anybody in the comp. And the Knights, yeah, absolutely the real deal. And the great thing about the Knights winning 6 on the trot, we've been on them 6 out of 6 weeks.
Yep.
They've won, and I think out of those 6, they've been an underdog 3, if not 4 times. Because you got to remember who they've beaten recently. Like, they've beat the Bunnies, beat the Roosters the week before that.
Oh, yeah.
They're playing the Storm this week, so hell of a challenge. But especially to win that game without Clemmer and Ponga, very impressive. And yeah, I mean, we couldn't get any more plays on the Knights once that line had moved. Adam Reynolds getting scratched midweek was a big one. But you've got to just hand it to the Knights. They're playing with ferocity and and enthusiasm, and they're bringing it every single week. The Rabbitohs, even Wayne had said that they're feeling worn down. They haven't had a bye yet. But, a few players, 4 players in rep footy and a couple other key players, obviously like Burgess and Reynolds with injuries. So now they've got to Burgess has to go get surgery now. So it's a very tough period for the Bunnies, but they'll probably be okay. They got to integrate James Roberts back into that team. And when they do get their bye and they get those rep stars back, probably nothing to panic about for them, but you've got to be impressed by what's gone on in the Hunter.
And I see Dan Lever in the comments. He's obviously a very staunch Knight supporter. And the only bloke in the group that has done 4 beers in a shoe, and a filthy shoe at that. So shout out to Dan Lever in the comments there. Let's move on to the night game. It was actually Saturday game. This was, or was this Friday?
There was a doubleheader Friday.
It was the night game, the late game on Friday. Raiders beat the Tigers 28-0. We had 5 plays on the game. We do end up going 3-2. We said in the preview pod that we really loved the unders more than anything in this game, and we have a slight lean to the Tigers, and of course those 2 bets are obviously the ones that we lose on the Raiders under. But let me just say this. This was a stone-cold under game. I know there was 28 points scored, but those first 2 tries in the first half were the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen. I thought that I was watching soccer. It was a kick off a kick to a try. And then even the third try of the half was a kick as well. And those can go anywhere, but especially if you're kicking a fucking grubber, that could go anywhere. So, I mean, still only a total of 28 points scored in the game, even though there were some ridiculous tries. There were 2 intercept tries and 3 tries off kicks. That's pretty much it. So what I would say to take away from this game is we said before the pod, both teams very, very good defensively. And I wouldn't take anything away from the Tigers necessarily in this one. I still think that the Tigers are an under team, even though they did concede 28 points, because it was a little bit fluky.
Yeah, if you can give some credit to West, as you say, like the Canberra did score some crazy tries in the first half. But what you've got to also say about Canberra is not only is their defence turning up because they held the Tigers to 0, and I think that's the 3rd goose egg they've held a team to this year. I don't know if any other sides have held anyone scoreless. So, I mean, that's crazy, and you've got to give respect. Or can you hear me?
Yeah, you need to do whatever you did last time where you just got the black screen, We can still hear you, but now you're moving again, I believe.
Let me see.
Yeah, you're good now, you're good.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if I'm good at all, but...
no, you're not good.
Look, so the Raiders' defence is there, and look, yeah, they scored some fluky, lucky tries, if you want to call them that. But it's because of their energy, and it's because they're backing up, and it's because they're always around the ball and supporting each other. Like, it's not total luck, and you can't say that about the Tigers. They were so unimaginative, and I guess, yeah, if you want to give them credit, the only tries they conceded in the second half was the length of the field intercept and another midfield intercept that they brought the bloke down 5 metres out, and then the Raiders scored on the wing. So the Tigers still are, as you say, a staunch defensive side. But it was a very disappointing effort for them coming off the bye, and the Raiders, to get a gritty win there on the back of one the previous week, and they've still had key players out. Raiders are another side that you've got to pay attention to moving into the second half of the year.
Indeed. And let's move on to Storm beating the Warriors 32-10. Had 3 players on the game, only went 1 and 2. Obviously, we did like the Warriors in this one, but our theory was, we're getting a line of +6. And that was only going to come down if, the Storm players did not back up. And, of course, all of them do back up. The Warriors are up, 10-2 at half and then concede, 30 points on the trot, which is just fucking ridiculous. But as we know, when the Storm team does get a roll on, they are very hard to stop. But, I mean, the Warriors, Like completing 70%, it's not good enough. When they're up 10-2, they had chances, dropped balls, bad fifth tackle options. They could have scored another try there, and then it's a very long way back for the Storm, but they just let them hang around long enough. And when the Storm get a roll on, like I said, they are very hard to stop. But disappointing performance by the Warriors at home. When you're up 8 points, the crowd's getting into it, and then you pretty much just give up and lay over after that. So, like the Warriors, but the Storm were too good.
And you go back 2 weeks ago, like if they did put in a very tough and high-quality game against Brisbane, which they lost, but then they got a bye. They had zero, effect from any Origin players. As you say, playing at home, and they did get a good start. And you're right, you don't take your chances first half, then you're going to get what you deserve against the Storm. And the Storm, of course, we put those bets on the Warriors, saying like, the Storm know they're going to be playing in September. They had so many key players that all played 80 minutes on Wednesday. There's a decent chance that you get one or more key players out. The Storm rested nobody. Look, there was always that chance, but that was a risk and it went against us. But I think the Storm played them all partly to show respect to the opposition, because the Storm knew that was going to be a tough match, and it should have been. And if you watched the first half, you thought it was a hell of a match, and we won our first half bet. And then second half, the Warriors capitulated, absolutely woeful, concede try after try. Then they get some goal line pressure. Storm gets a man sent to the bin, and the Warriors had set after set, and I think they could have cut it to 6, and they had an extra man. They don't, and in fact, they concede when they've got the man advantage. So, I mean, that's just, death knell there.
Yeah, that's shit.
And, so very horrible second half by the Warriors, but the Storm just firing another warning shot. And, they're clear on top of the ladder as well now. And they're, still probably the team to beat in the comp.
Shout out to Richard Carr. He's back. He's back in the comments. Mate, we were having a look out for you, mate, at Suncorp at Origin. Couldn't find you. Is that why you're going overseas, Jacob? You're fucking scared of him?
Yeah, he's been sliding into my DMs, so is his mate. But they haven't been too friendly, so I'm going to skip the country. I don't know why they don't like us, but thank you for tuning in every week. Anyway, lads.
Next up, we have the Sharks beating the Eels 42-22, and what was a pretty entertaining game. We didn't have any best bets on this one, just a few too many personnel issues and that kind of stuff that were too late notice for us. But let me just say this, the Sharks, they are building quite nicely for the finals here. Now they're, 6-6. They have just been ravaged by injuries throughout the first half of the season. And we've kind of said this, same about the Rabbits. When they're fully healthy, this Sharks team, they can be one of the best teams in the comp. They have not been fully healthy for pretty much the entire first half of the season. They get Moylan back. They get Dugan back now. They get Wade Graham back. And they're going to get Sean Johnson back. And when they have all of those dudes back, they will be a very, very scary team in the back half of the season. Bronson Cherry is only going to get better, scores a double on the night. For the Eels, there's not much they could do there. The Sharks did play way better than them on the night. But Mitch Moses, Jesus Christ, you get a $2.5 million contract, and you need to be better than that. He has to be better. Otherwise, this Eels team, they will not make the 8. Because, the forwards do get a roll on, but his fifth tackle options sometimes baffle me. And he does need to be better. But this Sharks team is going to be scary in the back half of the season.
By the way, Sharks 7-5, not 6-6, and that's
withstanding
all those injuries.
Which
that's
is
even more
crazy,
impressive.
Crazy.
Yeah, the Sharks just don't make it easy on anyone. Tough night at the office for the Eels, especially when Gutho got knocked out cold 90 seconds in.
That hurts.
And they conceded soon after that, and then they conceded on the final play of the half. I think it was just a bomb up with 20 seconds left, and they dropped it and conceded a try, literally final play. So it was always going to be tough sledding, and when the Sharks aren't a side that lets up. They're just ruthless. And the Sharks are a side that you like to bet on because they give everything and they do rip in, but the line just probably got a little bit too high for us with thinking that the Eels were another side that should really show up here. I don't know the last time the Eels won 2 games in a row. They've been really struggling for consistency, but heaps of credit to the Sharks. They could have even brought Sean Johnson back last week, but they said they didn't want to bring 2 key players back into the same team. Obviously, Graham looked good as well. He's only going to get better.
Yeah, he did.
They got a selection headache with what Flanagan's going to do. Josh Morris was rested for that game too. Obviously, Cherry is a stud to have there. So it's a loaded team, and they're an exciting side to watch into the back half of the year as well.
Oh, 100%. And then next up, we had Manly beating the Cowboys 22-20. Pretty ugly game. We had 5 bets on the game. We went 4-1, and we're pretty unlucky, really, not to go 5-0. Manly up 12-2, and then they let in 3 tries in 6 minutes. And this Cowboys team this year that's been struggling to put on points every single game somehow manages to score 3 tries in 6 minutes and sink our first half bet. But props to Manly, honestly, to come back from that. After just getting punched in the face just before halftime and then scraping out a win. Very, very impressive performance. But the Cowboys, they played the last, 10, 12 minutes with 12 men, fucked up their interchange there, so that certainly helped. Because, if you're up 2, you can pretty much just defend for your life against 12 men and you should be able to get the job done there. Manly, in my opinion, they're going to be a bet-on team for at least the next few weeks now that they are fully healthy. It's a similar kind of thing to the Sharks. They have not been fully healthy throughout the first half of the season. When they are fully healthy, they are a good team. They're certainly not as talented as that Sharks roster. But, Cherry played. Now you get Turbo back, and he was rusty. He wasn't great, let me just say that. A few drop balls, like he dropped a bomb, and he just wasn't clicking. But you can just see, when that guy gets the ball in space, he is dangerous, and he looks dangerous, and he scares you every single time. So I think Turbo's only going to get better from here on out. He's going to get integrated a little bit more. The only thing that they have to worry about, obviously, is will they lose him now during that origin period. But once this Manly side is fully healthy, it's certainly a team that I would like to bet on rather than against.
Oh, Tommy Trbojevic walks into that New South Wales team, surely. You can still see what a threat he is. Yes, the Cowboys had used their last interchange, and Jordan McLean tore his hammy, unlucky, and they did have to play the final 12 with 12, and that hurt their chances to maybe mount a comeback. They were down 2, and the score didn't change. But don't forget, earlier than that, Manly had a man sent to the bin, and that's what makes their comeback all the more impressive, that they didn't concede during that period. Now, grant you this, Manly got very fortunate with a try that was disallowed by the bunker, a bit of a head-scratcher. That was when I think they cut the score to within 4, and then the Cowboys get back out to a 10-point lead and a try to the bloke on debut, Cotter. And it looked all right live. Even in the replay, they went to the bunker. It was hard to take it off them, and that was ultimately a penalty to Manly that allowed them to stay in the game at that crucial stage. They go on and regain the lead. But, yeah, the Cowboys a blitz of 18 points in 6 minutes, as you say. And can people see what I mean about the Cowboys? Like, they keep doing these early tackle count kicks, like, kind of all or nothing plays, like an early tackle count, high kick to your winger that throws it in. Like, yes, it's a planned play, but it does still show that their attack is limited because no one else in the comp is consistently kicking early tackle count. I'm talking like inside the opponent 20, all or nothing
I think the only time you want to kick earlier than the 5th tackle when you're in a very good attacking position is if you think that you have a better than 50-50 chance of scoring. And I swear, those ones that they throw up are not.
Yeah, but it's funny. Like they're not completely, Hail Marys. They're planned plays.
Yeah.
But no other teams are taking those kind of risks because other teams have the
they trust their offense.
Yeah, the belief that they will actually score if they can run some plays. The Cowboys, it's just a hard situation. Clifford is still young. Asiata's not a natural half. Now Morgan went to fullback and he had mixed success back there. But ultimately, yeah, the Cowboys are a limited side. The Seagulls are the better side. They deserve to win, and it was good for our best bets.
Indeed, and then let's move on to what was the most shocking result of the round, in my opinion. It was the Titans beating the Broncos 26-18, and it wasn't even that close. The Titans walked all over the Broncos. The Broncos scored a couple late tries to make it a little bit closer. We were on the Broncos, obviously. We just thought, at home, we got a great line. We got a bunch of plays on the Broncos as soon as we heard the Ash Taylor news. We heard it before most people. So we got -7.5. They closed close to 10-point favourites. Now, they just were not up for this game. They looked fucking flat. I understand, that Dearden went out early. They're saying he's going to be out 8 to 10 weeks, which certainly hurts. But the Broncos just looked disinterested from the very start. Very little effort from the Broncos. And I really think they came into this game and just thought it was going to be a cakewalk. And you know what the funny thing is when you get a big favourite that sometimes, concedes the first try, or even the first 2 tries sometimes. It's like they think, it's going to be fine, we'll be able to come back. But the Titans were very, very good. They fucking lifted with no Ash Taylor. They were pretty much depleted of talent. And we've been on we said at the start of the season, Titans were one of our favourite teams. But it was just that, with no Ash Taylor, Broncos at home at Suncorp, and Cartwright got scratched before the game as well, which probably, to be honest with you, helped the Titans' chances because he is the worst player in the NRL. But very, very good effort from the Titans to go to Suncorp, beat Big Brother, and it was just fucking diabolical performance by the Broncos. You have to win those games, especially against a depleted Titan side at home.
And the Broncos were off the bye, but we should mention as well, I think we knew Offengawi was out, but we didn't know Corey Oates would get scratched, and it really did show. It was glaring how weak the Broncos' outside backs are. Like, James Roberts is gone, Jack Bird is gone, Oates was injured.
I thought Kenner was, fine, except for the one...
No, Kenner actually was all right, but, Shibasaki's trash.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, because Tony Staggs is actually pretty good and digs in. Isako's having a met year, and obviously Darius Boyd is... passenger at times. You know what stitched us up was, and the thing about the Titans is, we've said this with punting, we spoke about, we were on the night 6 weeks in a row. We've been against the Roosters 3 weeks in a row. We find teams that are overvalued or undervalued and we stick with them. The problem is if you stick on a side like the Titans, who we thought were underrated in the marketplace because no one rated the Titans at all, but you lose a few, you start thinking, do I stick with it because they're definitely still underrated, or am I just not assessing it right, and do I need to jump off? And then, of course, if you jump off, that's always the week they step up. But what stitched us up is Ash Taylor gets scratched. Now, he's an important player to that team. So we got -7.5 when the line was going to be, 8.5. They played better without him. Him being scratched was the best thing that could have happened. Riley Jacks had a great game. They didn't have a bloke moping around in the middle of the field. It actually injected a bit of life into the Titans. And, the start was so crucial. And I said Shibasaki, he knocked on a try. It would have been the first try. And you said, the Broncos didn't take the Titans seriously, but also those early tries to the Titans just gave them belief, and they needed it because a win has been a long time coming. So, the Broncos obviously losing your halfback hurts, and a couple of forwards that were out as well, and it almost looked like Payne Haas didn't have his best game for Feeder, Pangai Jr. Not that Pangai Jr. played Origin, but the other blokes they were a little bit flat after the huge Wednesday night game, so they haven't had experience backing up. Obviously from debuting on Origin, so. A bunch of reasons that the Broncos were very, very bad. And the Titans, good on them. A few teams that were in dire straits got a win this week. They really needed it.
100%. Before we get to the next game, I see a comment flowing through about Bryce Cartwright. Let me ask you this, Jacob. If you owned a football team, who would you rather have on your team, Bryce Cartwright or Darius Boyd? And they are both getting paid this same amount.
Boyd makes a bit more than Cartwright. You hate Cartwright more than I do, so I'll take Bryce Cartwright.
Jesus, I did not expect that. Anyway, moving on, the Panthers beat the Roosters 19-10 in what was probably a surprising result to most people. We were on the Panthers. We went 4-1 on best bets in that one. Just thought it was a really, really good spot for the Panthers. At home, you're catching points, and it was a huge amount of points too. We got them plus 7.5 points. And obviously I think they closed, around 3.5 point dogs. You mentioned this actually in the preview pod that, you just said quietly a good addition is Kickow. He was a fucking massive in that game. Scored 2 tries, was an absolute beast in defense. Probably could have scored a triple, to be honest. Just got held up over the line. But he's absolutely great. And let me just say this. People have been heaping shit on the Panthers all year long. We're not, I'm not going to say that's because we have heaped shit on them as well. But when this team is fully healthy, now they've got their 2 halves back, they are one of the more talented teams in the comp, that's for sure. And look, when the Panthers lose games, it's always when they fucking seem disinterested. When they step up, they're actually trying. They're trying in defense, and they're motivated. They have the roster to fucking beat anyone. On the Roosters side, they dead set look tired. Just that entire game, it's not like they weren't trying. They just looked tired. And I understand, they had a couple of guys from Origin and Teddy, backing up after a huge workload Wednesday. But even so, very, very good win from the Panthers. And the Roosters, surprisingly enough, that's their 3rd loss in a row. So they want to turn things around pretty quick smart if they want to keep, one of those top 2 spots come the end of the season.
Yeah, we said before the game, wasn't it crazy that it was Penrith coming into that game with a 2-game win streak, and it was the Roosters going in on back-to-back losses, make that 3 in a row for Penrith, and we've been on them all 3. And I think we've read Penrith pretty well because we were also all over, who was it, the Warriors, when the Warriors destroyed the Panthers.
Yes.
And that was when they hit rock bottom, obviously. And we said at the time, this crazy thing is the talent is there for Penrith, but the issues were psychological, and they've come back and now with a good attitude and some grinding wins. And it's showing. And, I mean, Nathan Cleary was pretty inspirational for him, as you say. When you say kick out an addition because he was a late scratch last week, you see the impact he has coming into the sides. But they got other forwards that help out as well. It is actually quite a well-balanced team. And the Roosters, obviously, Latrell, we were pretty sure that he wouldn't be playing for him this weekend, just, the wash-up of Origin. We thought Cordner was getting rested. It was actually Crichton who got rested. I don't think Warrior Hargraves played either. You've got to remember Jake Friend has been out for a few weeks. Kiri, you can't understate, what a big out that is. It adds up. And as much as they're not going to make excuses and they're disappointed because they still have, a decent roster, that's a lot of holes to fill. And, of course, they don't need to panic yet. Because
Richard Carr is going to love that. You just said a lot of holes to fill.
Like I'm glad that I can't read the comments sometimes. But yeah, the Roosters, they're going to be okay. But, reps season always hurts the sides that have a lot of rep players, and they've had a couple of injuries outside of that. And the Panthers are another side that, would have been dead in the water a month ago, and now season back on track for them as well.
Indeed. The Dogs making a Dogs making a cameo again. Anyway, guys, that will wrap it for this week for round 13. When are you leaving, Jacob?
I'm leaving Wednesday night.
Okay, so you won't be doing the pod Wednesday night. You won't see Jacob's face for about, another month, which is...
6 weeks.
6 weeks, there you go. So certainly good for me. Don't know if you guys watching prefer like Jacob on there or anything, but certainly to look at, not that great. So if you want
oil painting yourself, mate.
Yeah, that's true. If you still want to listen to this, though, like I've got on the screen at the moment, or maybe I have it on there, maybe I don't. But if you don't want to look at our faces while listening to this, we are on every podcast app imaginable. So look, we'll be back, or I'll be back on Wednesday night, same time, 6 p.m. to break down round 14. But Jacob will still have some opinions there. He'll shoot me some text through, and he'll still be active in the group and in the app and that kind of stuff. But yeah, certainly enjoy your holiday, mate. Where are you off to first?
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'm going to Europe. I've never been there before, and I've never even taken a holiday like this during the footy season. So it's tough, but unfortunately we've got some family stuff, a wedding to get over to, and just some exploring to do. So I'm going to leave the pod in your trusty hands, and good luck to you and good luck to everyone following along, obviously. I think even though this round was a bit of a setback, we've gotten back on track doing what we do this season. And yeah, I'm also going to be sad to be away for Origin, everything like that. But you'll let everyone know when podcasts are coming up, and you'll do plenty of solo barbecuing in the next few weeks for people to look forward to.
Indeed, I will, and I'm sure you're in England. They should be showing the state of Origin there somewhere.
I'll be doing what I can to catch some games for sure.
Indeed. Well, farewell, everyone, to Jacob. You won't see him again for 6 weeks now, but you can see my face at 6 p.m. on Wednesday night to break down round 14 in the NRL. And like always, I'll be releasing the rest of the best bets in the Tripod app on Thursday morning. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in once again, and I'll see you at 6 p.m. on Wednesday.